I never thought I'd be the guy posting his business on the internet, but here we are. Mason Rodriguez, 34, electrical contractor out of Corpus Christi, Texas, and apparently the last person to know his wife was screwing around behind my back. Let me paint you a picture of how this whole mess started. I've been working offshore electrical systems for the past 12 years, ever since I got my journeyman's license at 22. Good money, steady work, and I'd built up a solid reputation managing electrical crews on the Gulf Coast oil rigs. The work's demanding. 14 days on, 7 days off, helicopter rides out to platforms that look like floating cities when the sun hits them just right. But it pays well, and there's something satisfying about keeping the lights on for America's energy industry. Sierra, my wife of 10 years, worked residential real estate in the booming Corpus Christi market. We had what I thought was a good thing going. Dual income, no kids yet, nice house in a quiet neighborhood near the port where I could hear the ships coming and going at all hours. The sound used to comfort me, actually. Constant reminder that commerce never sleeps, that there's always work to be done. The no kids yet part wasn't by choice, though. We'd been trying for about 5 years with zero luck. At first, we figured it was just timing. My offshore schedule didn't exactly line up with the romance novels, if you know what I mean. But after 5 years of nothing, Sierra pushed for us to get tested. That's when I learned my swimmers were apparently taking the scenic route. Low sperm count, the doc called it, with all the bedside manner of a man reading a grocery list. Said natural conception was about as likely as finding oil in my backyard, which, considering I lived in Texas, wasn't exactly the reassuring comparison he thought it was. Sierra took the news harder than I did, way harder. Started researching fertility treatments like it was her full-time job, printing out articles, making spreadsheets, talking to other couples who'd gone through the process. She became obsessed with having biological children, and I mean obsessed in a way that should have set off alarm bells if I'd been paying closer attention. I was open to whatever, honestly. Seeing her want kids that badly made me want to give her the world. We started looking into sperm banks, getting our legal ducks in a row, scheduling consultations with fertility specialists in Houston. All that bureaucratic nonsense that comes with making babies the hard way, plus a price tag that would make your head spin. That's when everything went sideways. Now, I'm the type of guy who likes his systems redundant. 12 years of electrical work teaches you that backup systems save your ass when the primary fails. Murphy's Law isn't just a saying in my line of work. It's a daily reality. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong, usually at the worst possible. Its moment. So when we bought our house 5 years ago, I wired it up proper. Not just basic electrical. I'm talking full security system with cameras covering every entrance, motion sensors, the works. 6 cameras total, front door, back patio, kitchen, living room, garage, and yes, the master bedroom. That last one was Sierra's idea, actually. She said she wanted to keep an eye on things while I was offshore. Sierra used to joke that I'd turned our place into Fort Knox. "What are you so worried about?" She'd laugh, watching me adjust camera angles and test motion detection zones. "Nobody's gonna break into an electrician's house. They know we've got the good tools locked up tight." Turns out the threat wasn't coming from outside. The system I'd installed was top shelf. Remote access through a smartphone app, cloud storage backup, night vision, the works. I could check on our house from Platform Delta, 40 miles offshore, and see everything clear as day. During slow periods on the rig, I'd sometimes pull up the cameras just to see Sierra going about her day, feel connected to home life while I was surrounded by nothing but Gulf water and steel. 3 weeks ago, I was supposed to be out on Platform Delta for another 4 days, but a weather system rolled in faster than forecast. These storms move like freight trains sometimes, going from scattered clouds to 30-foot waves in a matter of hours. Company policy is clear. When the helicopters can't fly safely, everybody comes home early. No point risking lives over a few days of work, especially when the platform's automated systems could handle routine maintenance without human oversight. I caught the last flight off the platform Tuesday afternoon instead of my scheduled Friday morning departure. The helicopter ride back was rough. Wind gusts that had the pilot cursing under his breath, and me gripping my seat hard enough to leave permanent finger impressions in the vinyl. Figured I'd surprise Sierra with an early homecoming. Maybe take her out for a nice dinner at that steakhouse she likes down by the wharf. The one where you can watch the shrimp boats coming in while you eat. I was actually excited about it, planning the whole evening in my head during the drive from the heliport. The surprise was definitely on me. I pulled into our driveway around 2:30 p.m. and immediately noticed a white Silverado parked where I usually put my truck. New-looking extended cab, toolboxes in the bed, construction company logos on the doors, clearly somebody in the trades. Sierra dealt with contractors all the time through her real estate work, so my first thought was that she was showing a property or coordinating some repair work for a client. But something felt off. Call it instinct, call it paranoia, call it 12 years of troubleshooting electrical systems where the obvious answer is usually wrong. Something about the scene didn't add up. The truck was parked too, casually, like someone who belonged there. The toolboxes looked unused, too clean for actual construction work. And it was 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, which seemed like an odd time for a business meeting. I sat in my truck for a minute, engine running, trying to shake the feeling that something was wrong. That little voice in the back of my head, the same one that's kept me alive working around high voltage for over a decade, was telling me to trust my instincts. So I grabbed my phone and pulled up the security camera app I'd installed 2 years ago. The app loaded quickly, showing thumbnail views of all 6 cameras. I started with the obvious ones first. Front door showed nothing unusual, kitchen was empty, living room looked normal. Back patio camera revealed Sierra's coffee cup, sitting on the table where she'd left it that morning, still half full and probably stone cold by now. The garage camera showed the Silverado I'd seen in the driveway, but also revealed something that made my stomach drop. The driver's side door was open, and I could see a leather jacket draped over the seat. Expensive looking, definitely not something Sierra would wear. Whoever owned that truck had made themselves comfortable, planning to stay a while. I almost didn't check the bedroom camera. Part of me already knew what I was going to find, and another part was desperately hoping I was wrong. But 12 years of troubleshooting electrical problems had taught me that avoiding the obvious test point never makes the problem go away. I tapped the bedroom camera icon. What I saw made my blood run ice cold and my hands shake so bad I nearly dropped the phone. There was my wife of 10 years, naked as the day she was born, tangled up with some guy I'd never seen before. Big dude, probably 6'2", muscular like he moved concrete blocks for a living, dark hair, broad shoulders, and this detail would have been funny if it wasn't my marriage getting demolished in real time. He was wearing nothing but a yellow hard hat. The image quality was crystal clear thanks to the high-definition cameras I'd installed. No grainy footage, no question about what I was seeing. Sierra was on top, her back to the camera, and the expression on this stranger's face was one of pure satisfaction. They weren't just having sex, they were comfortable with each other, moving together like they had done this before, many times before. I sat in my truck for maybe 10 minutes, just staring at my phone screen, cycling through emotions faster than a Gulf Coast weather system. First came disbelief. Maybe the camera was malfunctioning, maybe I was seeing things wrong. Then came the anger, hot and immediate, making me want to storm in there and beat the hell out of both of them. But the part of me that's kept me employed in a dangerous profession for 12 years kicked in. The part that says, think first, react second, because mistakes around electricity can kill you. So I opened my camera app's recording function and started documenting everything. The timestamp, the clear video footage, multiple angles showing both participants. I saved everything to cloud storage and made local copies on my phone. Evidence first, emotion second. Then I sat there for another few minutes, trying to process what this meant. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment mistake. The way they moved together, the casual intimacy, the fact that this guy had left his jacket in my garage like he owned the place. This had weight to it. History. While I watched, they finished their business and started getting dressed. Sierra was laughing at something the guy said, running her fingers through his hair. The intimacy of that gesture hit me harder than the sex itself. That was how she used to touch me, back when we were happy. I forced myself to stop watching and climbed out of my truck. The walk to my front door felt like the longest 30 feet of my life. My hands were steady now. Funny how the initial shock had settled into something colder, more focused. I used my key quietly, not slamming the door or announcing my presence. If I was going to confront them, I wanted to control the timing. They heard the front door close and scrambled like roaches when the lights come on. By the time I made it to the bedroom doorway, the guy was pulling on his jeans and Sierra was wrapped in our bedsheet. The the same sheet we'd picked out together at that furniture store in San Antonio 3 years ago. "Mason," she started, and I could see her mind racing, trying to calculate how much I'd seen, how much she could explain away. "Save it," I said, keeping my voice calm and level. "You." I pointed at the construction guy who was hopping around trying to get his boots on while avoiding eye contact. "Get your shit and get out of my house." The guy, built like he moved concrete blocks for a living, just like I'd thought, took one look at me and decided discretion was the better part of valor. He was probably thinking the same thing I would have been in his position. Angry husband plus probable access to power tools equals time to leave, immediately. He grabbed his hard hat, his shirt, and his dignity, then hustled past me without saying a word. Smart man. I heard the front door close behind him, then his truck engine starting up and tires on gravel as he got the hell out of there. Sierra tried the whole crying, apologizing. It's not what it looks like, routine. But I wasn't buying any of it. 10 years of marriage teaches you to read someone pretty well, and Sierra's tells were obvious once you knew what to look for. The way she wouldn't meet my eyes, the defensive set to her shoulders, the fact that she was already mentally preparing her justifications. "How long?" I asked. She tried to dodge the question, claiming it was the first time, that it didn't mean anything, that she could explain. But I've interrogated enough apprentice electricians who've screwed up to know when someone's stalling for time to get their story straight. "How long, Sierra?" She looked at the floor. 6 months, she whispered, 6 months. While I was out on the rigs, working 60-hour weeks in dangerous conditions to keep us financially comfortable, she was playing house with construction boy in our bed. 6 months. But that wasn't even the worst part. Oh no, Sierra saved the real knife twist for last. "Mason, you have to understand," she said, still clutching that bedsheet like it was body armor. Her voice took on that pleading tone she used when she wanted something expensive, except this time, she was selling me a betrayal instead of a vacation package. "We've been trying so hard to have kids, and with your condition." I thought maybe this was the answer. I stared at her, waiting for my brain to process what she'd just said. "What are you telling me?" "Garrett's fertile, proven fertile. He's got 3 kids from his previous marriage, all healthy. I thought if I got pregnant, we could finally have the family we wanted." The room started spinning a little bit. "You've been trying to get pregnant by another man while married to me." She nodded like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. "It's more natural than a sperm bank, don't you think? And this way, we'd know the father, know his health history, know he comes from good stock. Plus, it wouldn't cost us $40,000 like those fertility clinics want." I walked out before she could finish that sentence. Grabbed my overnight bag from the truck and drove straight to my buddy Clay's place in town. Clay's a welder, works the same industrial circles I do, and he's got a couch and a cooler full of beer, which was about all I could handle right then. Called in sick for the rest of the week and tried to wrap my head around what had just happened. Sierra had turned our fertility problems into a justification for infidelity, like my medical condition gave her a free pass to cheat. She'd reduced me to a paycheck with a wedding ring, keeping me around for financial stability while getting her biological needs met elsewhere. Sierra blew up my phone for the next 3 days, crying, apologizing, explaining, justifying, the whole emotional roller coaster. Then she'd switch tactics and get angry, telling me I was overreacting, that I should be happy she'd found a solution to our problem. Our problem, like my medical condition was some kind of mechanical failure that voided our marriage warranty. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, not the hot, explosive kind of anger that makes you punch walls and regret it later. The cold, calculating kind that makes you plan. The kind that comes from 12 years of troubleshooting complex electrical systems, where you learn that when something fails catastrophically, you don't just fix the immediate problem. You figure out why it failed and make sure it can never fail that way again. Sierra had introduced a fatal flaw into our marriage, and the only way to fix it was to isolate the failure point completely. But that didn't mean I couldn't make sure she understood the full cost of her choices. I filed for divorce the following Monday, but I didn't stop there. See, I'd learned a few things about Sierra's affair partner during those 3 days of thinking and planning. His name was Garrett Thompson, and he was a project manager for Coastal Development Group. It's one of the big residential builders in the Corpus Christi area. Sierra had mentioned him before, They'd worked together on several property deals, coordinating new construction with her sales contracts. That's probably how this whole thing started. Professional relationship, shared coffee breaks, maybe a few drinks after closing on a big sale. I could picture it perfectly. Sierra complaining about our fertility issues, Garrett offering sympathy and eventually offering more than that. But here's the thing about affairs between business partners. They tend to leave paper trails. I did some digging and found out that Garrett had been using company time and company resources to carry on this relationship with Sierra. Lunch meetings that ran long, site visits to properties that didn't need inspecting, company credit card charges at hotels during his supposed contractor meetings with my wife. Sierra's real estate license required her to maintain certain ethical standards. Adultery might not violate state law, but screwing your business partners while misrepresenting the nature of your professional relationships sure as hell violated her professional code of conduct. So, I filed a complaint with the Texas Real Estate Commission, complete with security camera footage, time-stamped evidence, and a detailed timeline of their affair. I included copies of their text messages. Sierra had been careless about leaving her phone unlocked, showing how they'd been coordinating their meetings around my offshore schedule. The construction angle was even easier to handle. Coastal Development Group had strict policies about employee conduct, especially regarding conflicts of interest and misuse of company resources. Amazing what a well-timed anonymous tip can accomplish when you've got documentation to back it up. I sent them everything: expense reports showing Garrett's suspicious hotel charges, GPS logs from his company truck showing frequent stops at properties where Sierra was listing agent, even security footage showing him leaving our house in the middle of a workday when he was supposed to be inspecting a job site across town. Within 6 weeks, Sierra lost 3 major listing contracts when word got around about her creative problem-solving methods. Turns out, homebuyers don't love finding out their real estate agent has been conducting personal business in properties she's supposed to be showing professionally. Garrett got it even worse. Coastal Development reassigned him to projects in Houston, effectively a demotion that required a 2-hour commute each way, and cut him out of the lucrative Corpus Christi market where he'd built his reputation. His wife found out about the affair when HR called her to discuss the personnel matter that necessitated his transfer. The divorce was finalized in 3 months. Texas is a no-fault state, but adultery still affects property division, and I had ironclad evidence. I kept the house, Sierra got her car, and about 30% of our savings instead of the 50% she would have gotten otherwise. Clean break, no alimony, no ongoing drama. At least, that's what I thought. 2 months after the papers were signed, Sierra called with news that changed everything. "Mason," she said, and I could hear something different in her voice. Not the anger or desperation from before, but something that sounded almost triumphant. "I'm pregnant, with twins." My first instinct was to hang up, but something in her tone made me stay on the line. Sierra had gotten what she wanted. She was pregnant finally, after all those years of trying. But there was something else in her voice, something that sounded almost desperate. "And get this," she continued, "Garrett wants nothing to do with them. The minute I told him about the positive test, he said this was never supposed to be serious between us. Just physical, he called it. Nothing serious." I could practically hear the wheels turning in her head before she dropped the real bombshell. "Mason, you wanted kids anyway, right? Couldn't you just be their father for us? I mean, this is what we were trying to accomplish with the sperm bank, essentially. Now, we don't have to pay for it." I hung up on her. Sierra tried that angle for months, calling and texting with updates I never asked for, sending ultrasound pictures to my phone, playing up the abandoned single mother routine. She'd hint that I was heartless for not stepping up, that any decent man would see this as an opportunity rather than a burden. But I'd made my choice, and I was sticking to it. I'd disconnected myself from Sierra's web of lies and manipulation, and I wasn't about to get tangled up in it again, just because she'd successfully completed her mission to get pregnant by another man. 7 months later, Brady and Colton Campbell were born. I heard through the grapevine that Garrett had indeed ghosted Sierra completely once the pregnancy test came back positive. Apparently, having kids with your side piece wasn't part of his 5-year plan, especially since his wife had found out about the affair and was making his life hell at home. I moved to Dallas 6 months after the twins were born, Fresh start, new city, same line of work, but with land-based industrial contracts instead of offshore. The money wasn't quite as good, but I didn't have to spend 2 weeks at a time surrounded by nothing but Gulf water and machinery noise. Dallas turned out to be exactly what I needed. The electrical contractors up there were handling bigger projects. Downtown high-rises, corporate campuses, industrial facilities that made the oil rigs look simple. I found work with a company that specialized in commercial electrical systems, and within 2 years I was running my own crew again. Met Brooke 3 years after the move. She was an accountant with one of the firms that handled our company's books, and she had a good head on her shoulders and zero patience for drama. Took her 6 months to even agree to a coffee date because she'd been through her own divorce and wasn't looking to jump into anything complicated. When I finally told her about Sierra and the whole fertility deception mess, Brooke just shook her head and said, "Some people will justify anything if it gets them what they want. No drama, no emotional theatrics, just practical assessment of the situation." That's when I knew she was different. We got married 4 years ago and adopted 2 kids, Chloe and Trent, who had been bounced around the foster system longer than anyone should have to endure. Chloe was 6 when we got her, scared of everything and convinced that every adult would eventually send her away. Trent was 8 and angry at the world, testing every boundary we set to see if we'd give up on him like everyone else had. It took patience, consistency, and a lot of family counseling, but they're thriving now. Chloe's 10 and obsessed with marine biology, wants to be an oceanographer and study deep-sea creatures. Trent's 12 and building robots in our garage, using electrical components I bring home from job sites. For 15 years, I thought Sierra and her twins were behind me. Ancient history, filed away in the same mental category as other expensive mistakes. I was wrong. The twins found me on Facebook when they turned 14. Friend requests from Brady Campbell and Colton Campbell, both with profile pictures that looked disturbingly familiar. They had Sierra's dark hair but stronger jawlines, probably from Garrett's side of the genetics lottery. I declined the requests, but they kept trying to message me through the platform's various channels. The messages started simple enough. "Hi," and "Can we talk?" but then escalated to questions that made my blood run cold. "Dad, why won't you talk to us? Mom says you left because you didn't want kids. We just want to know why you abandoned us." That word, Dad, hit me like grabbing a live wire. Sierra had told them I was their father. After everything, after the divorce, after the DNA evidence of her affair, she'd looked those kids in the eye and told them I was their biological father and had abandoned them before they were born. I called my lawyer immediately. He advised me to respond once, clearly and firmly, explaining that there had been a misunderstanding about their parentage. So I crafted a careful message and sent it to both of them. "There's been some confusion about your father's identity. I'm not your biological father. You should discuss this with your mother about who your real father is." Then I blocked them both and called Sierra. "What the hell did you tell those kids?" I demanded when she answered. The crying started immediately. Turns out, when Brady and Colton started asking persistent questions about their father around age 6, Sierra had panicked. Rather than explain that their biological father had wanted nothing to do with them, she'd invented a story where I was their dad but had abandoned them because I couldn't handle the responsibility of raising children. For 8 years, those kids had grown up thinking their own father had rejected them before they were even born. 8 years of believing they weren't good enough, weren't wanted, weren't worthy of their father's love. "You need to tell them the truth," I said. "Today. All of it." She agreed, but apparently Sierra's version of the truth included the claim that I was lying to avoid responsibility. A month later, I got another message from Brady, this one asking for a DNA test to prove I was their father. My lawyer advised agreeing to the test to settle the matter permanently. "Let's put this to rest once and for all," he said. "Clear documentation will protect you from any future claims." The DNA test came back exactly as expected. Negative, obviously. I wasn't the biological father of Brady and Colton Campbell, and now we had scientific proof. I figured that would be the end of it, that the twins would finally understand their mother had been lying to them their entire lives. But somehow, Sierra managed to spin even that. According to the messages I got from mutual friends, she told the twins that I had somehow manipulated the test results, that I was being cruel by making them prove paternity instead of just accepting my role as their father. The kids stopped contacting me after that. I figured Sierra had finally been forced to come clean, and they were processing the real story about their origins. I put it all behind me again and focused on my life with Brooke and our kids. Chloe's marine biology obsession, Trent's robotics projects, family vacations to places where nobody knew our complicated history. For 4 years, I thought the Sierra chapter of my life was finally permanently closed. Last week, a process server showed up at my door with legal papers that changed everything. Brady and Colton Campbell, now 18 years old, were suing their mother for emotional distress, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional harm, and about 6 other charges related to 18 years of lies about their paternity. The lawsuit documents told a story that made Sierra's deception look even more calculated than I'd realized. The day they turned 18, the twins had pooled their money and hired a private investigator to track down their biological father. They wanted answers that didn't depend on their mother's version of events. What the investigator discovered was stunning. Garrett Thompson hadn't disappeared to avoid responsibility for children he'd fathered. Sierra had never told him she was pregnant. According to the lawsuit and the private investigator's report, Sierra had gone to elaborate lengths to hide the pregnancy from Garrett. When she realized the affair had resulted in twins, she'd systematically cut off all communication with him. She'd blocked him on social media, changed her phone number, and even moved in with her parents in Austin during the final trimester of her pregnancy. When Garrett moved to Houston for his new job assignment, the demotion I'd helped arrange through my anonymous tip, he wasn't fleeing fatherly responsibilities. He was advancing his career after his employers transferred him away from the Corpus Christi market. He had no idea Sierra was pregnant, much less that he'd fathered children. The private investigator had tracked Garrett down and arranged a meeting. When Brady and Colton showed up with DNA test results proving he was their biological father, Garrett Thompson was genuinely shocked. He'd had no idea he had sons. More importantly, he wanted to know them. 18 years later, Garrett was married to a different woman, had 3 other children, owned his own construction company in Houston, and was financially stable. When presented with proof that he had 2 18-year-old sons he'd never known about, his first question wasn't about child support or legal liability. His first question was about their birthdays, what sports they played, whether they were planning to attend college. Within a week of that first meeting, Garrett had set up college funds for both twins. Within a month, he'd introduced them to their half-siblings and his wife, who welcomed them into their family despite the complicated circumstances of their existence. The twins were finally getting the father they'd always wanted, just not the one their mother had spent 18 years lying about. Sierra's reaction to losing control of her narrative was predictable and extreme. She started calling me again, 20 or 30 times a day, alternating between blaming me for the entire situation and begging me to help her fix it. According to Sierra's twisted logic, if I had just played along and been the twins' father figure, none of this would have happened. "They wouldn't be suing me if you just pretended to be their dad," she screamed during one particularly unhinged voicemail. "This is all your fault for being so stubborn about the truth." I blocked her number and told her all future communication had to go through my lawyer. 2 days ago, Sierra showed up at my house, in Dallas, clearly intoxicated and completely unhinged. Brooke was home with Chloe and Trent while I was at a job site downtown. When Sierra refused to leave and started pounding on our front door, screaming about how I'd ruined her life and destroyed her family, Brooke called the police. By the time I got home, they'd escorted Sierra off our property with a trespass warning, and my kids were understandably upset by the disturbance. That was the final straw. I filed for a restraining order the next morning. The twins called to apologize for their mother's behavior, which was completely unnecessary. They're not responsible for Sierra's choices, and they never have been. They also told me they'd rejected Sierra's settlement offer and were proceeding with the lawsuit. They're planning to legally change their last names to Thompson and have asked Garrett to walk them at their high school graduation next month. They asked if I'd be willing to testify about Sierra's deception during our marriage and divorce, to provide evidence that her lies about their paternity were part of a larger pattern of manipulation and fraud. I agreed. 18 years after I caught my wife cheating in our bedroom, the truth is finally coming out. Sierra's elaborate house of lies is collapsing, and she's got nobody to blame but herself. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people destroy themselves with their own choices. I walked away clean 18 years ago and built a better life. Sierra kept digging herself deeper into deception and manipulation, and now she's facing the consequences of every lie she told. The twins deserve to know their real father, and Garrett deserves the chance to know his sons. As for Sierra, she made her bed, literally and figuratively, and now she gets to lie in it. Some electrical systems fail gradually, giving you warning signs and opportunities to repair the damage before it becomes catastrophic. Others fail all at once, taking out everything connected to them in a shower of sparks and destruction. Sierra was always going to be a catastrophic failure. I'm just glad I had the sense to disconnect myself from that circuit before she took me down with her. The only thing I regret is that it took 18 years for Brady and Colton to learn the truth about their origins. But at least now they know, and they can build their futures on honest ground instead of their mother's shifting foundation of lies. Sometimes justice takes a while to arrive, but it has a way of finding its target eventually. Just like electricity, it always finds the path of least resistance, and Sierra's web of deception was never going to be able to handle the voltage of truth indefinitely. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep you try to bury it. And in this case, the truth set everyone free, everyone except the person who'd been lying all along.